Hi everyone, happy Friday. Anne McCabe here with Curo Private Wealth. As I'm sure you are well aware, on Wednesday, the Federal Reserve, or as we like to call them, the Fed, decided to reduce interest rates by 0.5%. This was the first rate cut in 4 years. The cut also came with projections for 2 additional 0.25 point cuts for the remainder of 2024. Something interesting happened in that for the first time in nearly 20 years, one of the governors actually dissented, preferring a 0.25 point cut. So what does all of this mean for your bank accounts, CDs, mortgages, personal loans, credit cards, that kind of thing? It's important to remember that the Fed actually only controls one interest rate, and that is the federal funds rate. This is the short-term rate that banks use and charge to each other for borrowing short-term funds. When the Fed decides to change the Fed funds rate, these decisions filter through the entire financial world and ultimately impact both savings rates as well as borrowing costs. So let's start with savings. I actually checked my high yield savings account the morning after the Fed announcement, and the rate had already dropped by 0.25%. So we do expect for savings rates to gradually come down as interest rates continue to decrease. For CDs, we had actually already started to see rates drop on CDs leading up to this meeting, as it was widely projected that the Fed would reduce interest rates. On the other side of your net worth statement, when we talk about things like your liabilities, this is where lower rates actually are to your advantage. So we do expect rates on things like personal loans and credit cards to slowly drift lower. For student loans, if you have a federally backed student loan, that rate is fixed and will not be impacted by Fed policy. On the other hand, if you have a private student loan with a variable rate, then you should start to see that rate slowly drift down. So now let's talk about mortgages. This is such a popular topic because the mortgage environment as well as the real estate market has been so challenging over the past few years. So when the Fed began hiking rates, which was back in March of 2022, the average 30-year mortgage rate was around 4%. That rate spiked to nearly 8% last fall. But coming into this week, mortgage rates had already dropped significantly, with the average 30-year fixed rate at about 6.3%. So now for the trillion-dollar question: where will mortgage rates go in the future? Even the chair of the Fed, Jerome Powell, was asked this question during the press conference on Wednesday, and he answered with, "It depends." The answer we all hate to hear. But it does. It depends on upcoming economic data, things like inflation data and job data, and it also depends on the overall trajectory of the economy. So while we do expect for mortgage rates to gradually decline, one thing is for sure, or at least very unlikely, that we will not be seeing 2 to 3% mortgage rates in the near future, which were rates that we saw just a few short years ago. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here next week. Take care.